My name is Janessa Dunn, and I am the Director of Admissions here at Skidmore. And I am joined today by my fabulous colleague, Beth Post, who is the Director of Financial Aid, who will introduce herself in just a couple of moments. But before we delve into the conversation today, which is understanding your financial aid award, I just want to, on behalf of our entire division, congratulate you. Congratulations for your admission to the class of 2029 here at Skidmore College. We know that some of you have already chosen Skidmore as your collegiate home within the next few months, and some of you are still exploring and making informed decisions. And regardless of where you are in this process, we just want you to know that we are here to answer questions that you have, and also to know that all the effort that you have made to get to this point, we see you and we hear you. We also see you, parents and guardians and community support members. And so, of course, this session is for you all as well. And of course, in the background, I have two of my fabulous colleagues, Sarah Ireland, as well as Tiffany Di Pasquale. Some of you may recognize their names as members of our admissions team who will be able to receive some of your questions through the Q&A. So whether you are using your tablet, your phone, or a laptop, please know that you're welcome to utilize that Q&A to send along your questions. Some of them we will be able to answer live with the fabulous Beth Post here. And of course, if we are unable to answer questions, we will most certainly have the opportunity to reconnect after today's webinar. And speaking of today's webinar, it is recorded. So if you do need to step away or you may be joining us in this recording, please know that it will be available in your admission portal shortly after today. So know that this is not the last time that you may be able to access this information. Without further ado, I will go ahead and pass along to my wonderful colleague, Beth, who will be able to introduce herself.
Thanks so much, Janessa. And hi, everybody. So nice to see where you're all from, see some familiar names there. It's my pleasure tonight to give you some information about financial aid that hopefully will help you as you move through the next steps of the process. So I'm ready to get going if you are, Janessa.
We sure are. And we're just going to transition from the chat here. So any specific questions, please know that we want you to redirect those to the Q&A at this particular time. Now, as we continue to think about understanding your financial aid, and some of you may have several different offers in front of you at this point, Beth, can you kind of share with us at this point in the process for financial aid, all admitted students who've applied for need-based financial aid have received notice of their eligibility. Is that right?
That's right, Janessa. Every student who indicated on their admission application that they intended to seek financial aid would have been prompted and would have completed a financial aid application at that point, whether that's the CSS profile and or the FAFSA, or perhaps if you're an international student, you completed Skidmore's international financial aid application. But we've received those for all our admitted students and reviewed them and determined what you might qualify for. Our best estimates of your eligibility based on the data we reviewed on your financial aid application. Those financial aid award decisions were placed in your admission portal, so you should be able to view them, or hopefully you all have viewed them. They were provided to you with your admission decision when those were released to you, whether that was early decision round 1 or 2 or regular decision. So they are available. I thought it might be a good idea for us to take a look at them now. Our financial aid award letters, decision packages, whatever, however you want to refer to them, are pretty lengthy. They're 7 pages long, and I want to just go through briefly each of those pages with you. So if you felt like maybe it was an overwhelming amount of information, it could help you kind of get through it and help you pick out the pieces that are going to be most important for you and what's important for you and your family at this point in the process. So the first page, which Janessa has put up on the screen for us all, it's the most important page, really. It's listing for you, itemizing what we think you qualify for. That could be federal aid if you are a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident of the U.S. It could be state aid, it could be a Skidmore grant or Skidmore work study, some combination of all those things as is listed on this particular financial aid award letter. So the first section is listing what we believe you qualify for. As I said, you can see here, this student qualifies for federal aid and it's listed as federal. It's the first word in the description of the financial aid award. And there's also Skidmore grant eligibility listed here. We've separated it out by fall semester, spring semester, and then the total for the year estimated on the right. And at the bottom, a grand total for each semester, fall semester, spring semester, and then the grand total for the whole academic year. Later on in our talk, I'll describe more about these financial aid awards and what some of the terms and conditions are so you can understand that as well. The next section describes for you our estimated cost of attendance, and it breaks that down into different categories. We have direct or billed expenses listed and indirect or estimated expenses. So we want you to know and be able to kind of figure out and get a sense of what your bill from Skidmore might be. So we've listed there our estimated tuition and required fees. Under that, what the double room charge is and the full meal plan, and then totaled that beneath. The tuition fees room and board for 2025, 26 won't be set by the Board of Trustees until their May meeting. So this is why I'm calling it an estimate. It'll be very close to that, if not that. On the right-hand side is listed the indirect expenses. So even though Skidmore is not billing you these items under indirect expenses, we're still recognizing that students who go to college have expenses. They have to buy some books. They have to buy some supplies. They'll have personal expenses like laundry. We estimate in there travel, that's a local travel while you're at school. And if you have a student loan listed, and decide to borrow it, the government will deduct a fee, and the average student loan fee is listed there as well. Again, not something we're charging you, but expenses we recognize you might have. And then we've totaled that. So we're trying to show you the array of financial aid eligibility we believe you qualify for, and then our direct costs as well as other expenses that you may have that might be lower or they might be higher depending upon your major and your lifestyle, I suppose. In the next sentence under that, we're trying to tell you that for work study, unlike the other types of financial aid awards listed on your financial aid award letter, work study does not go toward your billed expenses. If the student decides to work, and they don't have to work, but if you decide to work as a student on campus, then you will receive a paycheck. Just like you're working any other job, you'll receive a paycheck, or hopefully you'll sign up for direct deposit, and those funds will be given to you to help with the right side of those expenses listed, your indirect expenses. So to help defray personal expenses, or for you to save up for the next semester books and supplies, perhaps. So work study goes toward the right side, indirect expenses. All the other financial aid awards go toward the left side, your direct or billed expenses. In that sentence that's under the expenses, also we're talking about the federal parent loan. The federal parent loan, the PLUS loan, is an option for you to help domestic students, so U.S. residents, U.S. permanent residents, or U.S. citizens can, parents who are U.S. citizens or U.S. permanent residents can borrow this federal loan to help finance the portion of the cost of attendance that's not covered by other student financial aid. And I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about the different types of financial aid and their terms and conditions. But that's an option that we're listing there. It's also on our financial aid website. If you want to dig deeper and get into more details, you can check it out at skidmore.edu/financial aid. And Skidmore also has a monthly installment plan. So the fall semester bill is due August 15th, and the spring semester bill will be due December 15th. Instead of paying the portion that's not covered by financial aid in 2 lump sums, one for fall and one for spring, you can spread those payments out into 8 monthly payments for a $40 fee per semester. So you would spread the fall semester payments into a quarter of it, and you would pay August 15th, then September 15th, October 15th, November 15th, and then for spring, December, January, February, and March. So that's a nice option to spread those payments out if you'd like to take advantage of that. The next paragraph talks about award eligibility, that it needs to be verified. So if we have the CSS profile from you, that's great. We're trusting that that information is accurate. If you decide to enroll at Skidmore, if you've already enrolled and you are a US citizen or permanent resident, we're going to require that you also complete the FAFSA and list Skidmore on it if you haven't already done so. That's one way in which we're going to verify the data that you told us on the CSS profile. And then further, we're going to ask that you upload a copy of your parents' 2023 W-2 wage and earnings statement form to our office so we can verify some untaxed information that could be listed on that form. So the next steps is, this is estimated, this is our best estimate based on your data that you provided, and then we're just going to verify what you've told us through those steps if you decide to enroll. And then the next paragraph, you'll be able to access the Skidmore student system once you've enrolled. You'll set up your email address. You'll be able to log in and view after May 1st, view your financial aid award as you see it on the financial aid award letter, and decide what you'd like to do about the student loans if you've been offered student loans. You can accept the loan, you can decline the loan, you can accept a portion of the loan. You can do those transactions after May 1st if you've paid your deposit and decided to enroll at Skidmore. So if you'd scroll, I just want to go through probably more quickly the other pages to try and explain what we're giving you and why. This next page we put together, we decided to add in because the most common question we would get in the financial aid office after the financial aid awards would be made available is, okay, I've got my award, but what's going to be my out-of-pocket expense? So we put together this first box, which is trying to show that to you. So that's based just on the left-hand side, those direct expenses, what Skidmore is going to be billing you, your tuition, required fees, room, and meal plan are lumped together there. We've subtracted the lumped together grants that might be listed on your financial aid award letter, the student loan, and then we're telling you this is going to be your rough out-of-pocket that you can plan on for the whole academic year for 2025-26. If you say, well, I'm not going to borrow the loan, that's fine. You can decline the loan. And then you would not be subtracting it from the costs listed there, that 89,044. You would just be subtracting any grants that you're receiving. So that's all we're trying to do there, is do that calculation for you to give you a sense of what your out-of-pocket expense is going to be. That's all that is. The next box, we're trying to show you what your next net cost might be. And the federal government defines net cost for us. It's not Skidmore's definition. They say you have to use the total cost of attendance, so direct costs plus indirect costs, subtract only grants, ignore any student loans, and then tell the family, basically, that's going to be what it's going to cost you to go to this college. So we're doing that calculation for you because further down in the packet, there's more information we're required to share with you about net costs. And I just wanted you to see the difference between out of pocket and what that calculated net cost figure is. Can go to the next page, please. So we've already been through two. The next two pages are Skidmore's definitions of the conditions of eligibility, terms, details. We want you to understand some of that language that we're providing to you on the first page. We want to be sure you understand the Skidmore Grant Award is a financial need-based award. It's based on the data on your financial aid application, and it's subject to verification. So if you're wildly off for some reason and what you provided on the profile, then the financial aid could change. And we're happy if anyone's worried about that, don't worry. It like rarely happens, but it could happen because we haven't verified your data yet. If you'd like us to, feel free to reach out to us and we can reassure you if you're concerned for any reason about what you put on the CSS profile. You need to be enrolled, just some general terms and conditions that you can read over that we tried to make in pretty plain language. And you can keep scrolling. Janessa, and I'll talk about the financial aid awards in a minute, but here are some definitions that you can review in your free time. You can keep scrolling right through on to the next page. And this is the net cost information. So that second box on the calculation second page is showing you how we calculated your net costs. And this is a form that's required by the government for us to share with all families. And you may have seen, if you've been admitted to other colleges where you've applied for financial aid, this similar format. And so again, this is a required format. It's the same information as on the first page, arrayed a little differently. And the focus on this is really net costs. And it can be super confusing because net cost is not your out-of-pocket expense. It's more than that because it's ignoring student loans and it's including those indirect expenses. So it's different. It's not that it's incorrect. It's just telling you different information than what your out-of-pocket might be. So you can keep scrolling through this. That's why these green pages are there. It's a federal requirement. And you can, okay, and on this page, families do find this helpful. So on this page, we're required to estimate for you what our next year's cost of attendance might be. So for sophomore, junior, and senior years, we've added 3.5% as a rough estimate or guide about what happens with the cost of attendance. For any students here who have received Skidmore grant, that means you qualified for our need-based grant assistance. A major component of our determination of your need is our cost of attendance. So as our cost of attendance increases over time, my cat's making an appearance here, sorry about that. As our cost of attendance increase over time, all else remaining equal, the student's demonstrated financial need increases or will increase over time. Skidmore has a policy. We promise to meet your demonstrated financial need each year. You reapply each year. We reassess the same way we did the first year. We reassess and we determine your new financial need. Higher cost of attendance means higher need, means more Skidmore grant. So I don't want you to be overly concerned about these increases in cost of attendance. We consider that when we figure out your eligibility as a sophomore, junior, and senior. If you want to move on to the next page, so many pages. And then these are the what we're required to include as in this, this green section, this packet of information from the Federal Department of Education. So that's what that page is. You'll see a lot of overlap between that page and Skidmore's terms and conditions page as well. So that's that is an overview of the 7 pages of our financial aid award letters.
Wow, that's record timing and bringing in so much really important information for our families. And there are a few different pieces that I wanted to kind of go back to when you started to unpack a little bit. And this kind of goes back to the types of financial aid that students are receiving in that award. And so can you break down a little bit about the Skidmore grant, work study, and loans, and what that means for our students and families?
Absolutely. So if you have one of the grants or one or more of the grants, or perhaps our Filene Scholarship or Porter Wackenheim Scholarship listed on your financial aid award letter, those are all grants: the federal Pell Grant, the supplemental grant, New York State TAP grant, and Skidmore grant. Skidmore is the most common grant that you'll find on a financial aid award letter. That's the best kind of financial aid to receive. It's gift money that the college or the state or the federal government is giving you with no expectation for repayment. The colleges or the state or federal government is giving you this money to help you pay for your costs at college for this year. So that's the best kind of award you can see on your financial aid award letter. In addition to those grants, oh, and I just want to say, so Skidmore doesn't have general merit, if I didn't already say that. We have these 2 specialized awards, discipline specific, So a music scholarship and a math, science, computer science scholarship. So if you are like, where we've been getting some phone calls, we didn't get any merit award. Well, we don't have any general merit award, and that's why. It's not that you didn't qualify or we don't think highly enough of your accomplishments. It's simply that our philosophy at Skidmore is definitely focused on making sure our very well qualified students who couldn't afford to attend Skidmore without assistance have an opportunity to attend Skidmore by affording it as we assess their eligibility on these financial aid applications. So I just wanted to say that or re-emphasize that if I've already mentioned it. So there are grants, very exciting, all good. And then there are loans. There are student loans, the federal subsidized type of student loan and the federal unsubsidized. These are both loans that are entirely in the student's name. Subsidized is the better one. You have to qualify for it based on federal formulas. And it means that the government is paying the interest on that loan for the student for the entire time the student's enrolled, at least half time, and for 6 months after they graduate or leave school. So it's an interest-free loan for that entire time. It's the best loan that you can possibly have that's still a loan. So it's still a loan, still means you need to repay it ultimately after you graduate or leave school. And you have a 10-year standard repayment period in which to repay it. So you don't make any payments while you're enrolled at Skidmore on the subsidized loan. The unsubsidized loan is very similar. You don't have to make any payments for the whole time you're enrolled, including if you go on to graduate school, you still don't have to make any payments. You've got a standard 10-year repayment term, but interest is accruing on the unsubsidized type of federal student loan. So it's not a subsidized loan, the interest is accruing. That's the main difference between those two. Skidmore doesn't have, flexibility over how much to award of which type to the student. It's all based on federal formulas and other financial aid that the student's receiving. And then there's also parent loans. So the federal government makes parent loans available to parents who are US citizens or permanent residents to be able to finance that portion that's not covered by other financial aid. So the maximum parent loan varies from student to student because it's our cost of attendance less the student's financial aid equals the maximum parent loan that a parent can borrow. So student financial aid varies quite a bit. And so that's how the maximum eligibility can change. Similar to the student loans, it's like an unsubsidized student loan, but it's in the parent's name rather than the student name. So interest starts accruing once the funds are dispersed to the college, but no payment needs to be made while the student's enrolled at least half time for up to 4 years. And then it's a standard repayment term of 10 years. So it's just another way to finance. And then there are private loans. So private banks have educational loan funds. You might find one that's a better interest rate depending upon your own personal situation and credit score, et cetera. So you might find one that's a better interest rate than the federal parent loan. You just want to, I'll just say, be cautious and make sure you read through the details and the fine points of those terms and conditions, and make sure that, if you're a day late in payment, that good interest rate doesn't, double, and it doesn't have the same kinds of consumer protections that the federal parent loan has, even though the federal parent loan might be a slightly higher interest rate. But those are options for the student or the parent, or both in the case of a private loan, to finance a portion of your educational expenses. And then work study. I did mention earlier when we were reviewing the financial aid award letter, that's just a part-time job. Any student at Skidmore can work on campus if they're interested in working. Any earnings they receive are given to them in a paycheck or a direct deposit for them to use however they need to over the year. The financial aid award letter lists $2,600 as the financial aid portion of that work study. In order to earn $2,600 in the academic year, you'd need to work about 6 hours a week. So it's not a huge time commitment to earn a little bit of extra money if you'd like to through the work study program. All of our first year students who wish to work are assigned to dining services. After the first year, you have a choice. You can go to our job marketplace every department, academic department, the library, the gym, the admissions office, the financial aid office, every office you can think of on campus has work study students, hires work study students to help us in our processing. So a student can go to the job marketplace and apply for one of those jobs, or some students decide to return to the dining hall because they know that job, and for them, it's extra spending money. And they don't have to focus on learning a new skill, and they can just go to back to the dining hall, and the dining hall will love that, will be very appreciative of that. Some students really want to focus on their academic area of interest, and so are looking for jobs in academic departments. Some love the theater and they want to work in the theater. Some are athletes and it's quite convenient for them to work at the gym, etc. There's as many reasons for jobs as there are students and jobs. We have more jobs at Skidmore than we have students who are interested in working. So finding a job at Skidmore is not a problem. You might find that at some other colleges, but not here at Skidmore. That was a lot too.
Well, those are really excellent, pieces to keep in mind, and I'm actually kind of following a little bit through the Q&A, which is very live. So thank you all so much for submitting your questions, and maybe are really thinking about the context of work study. What does that mean? But I think to expand upon a couple of different terms that you've mentioned, Beth, as you were showing the actual award letter. Do you mind re-clarifying for us a little bit the difference between out-of-pocket expenses and the net cost?
Yes,
To bring us
yes.
together.
Yeah, I know it's complicated. So thank you for asking. And Janessa, thank you for bringing us back around to that, because it takes a few times perhaps to hear it and have it really sink in. So out of pocket is representing what you're going to have to pay to Skidmore. So it's if you borrow the student loans. So that's what that box shows, what you're going to have to cover, either through writing a check, participating in the monthly installment plan, using your 529 college savings program, or perhaps borrowing the Federal Plus loan. But that's what that's related directly to Skidmore's bill to the student and the family. The other one, net cost, is supposed to be bigger than that. It's supposed to include your indirect expenses and recognize that what are this family's expenses for attending? Yes, they'll have the Skidmore bill, but aside from that, the student's going to have to purchase some books. They're going to have personal expenses while they're at college, like laundry is a good example. If they borrow the student loan, they're going to have that loan fee. So the net cost incorporates those indirect expenses to let the family know and be super transparent that in addition to the Skidmore bill, there are these other expenses that the student and therefore family are going to incur. The net cost starts with those combined costs, the direct costs and the indirect costs, and then subtracts only grant assistance. Because correctly, a student loan or a parent loan is still money that the family's paying through those financing options. So these are different calculations for different purposes. One is, what am I going to have to pay Skidmore? The other is, what, after only grants are deducted, is going to be my full cost of attendance at a college? And the definition of net cost is the same at each college, because as I said, that's a federal definition. So it's supposed to show the family the big picture, what's your true cost after any discount, including these indirect expenses, versus what's my bill going to be at Skidmore. I hope that was clear enough or more helpful.
Yes, thank you for that. And you are very much correct about that, Beth. And I think that kind of goes back to the glossary of terms that we use in this space to make this process as clear as possible. And also recognizing that, yes, it is okay to ask these questions multiple times
Yes,
as well. Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And as we're going through this process, and I'm continuing to see so many wonderful questions that are coming through the Q&A, there are some questions regarding the documentation, and particularly the role of the 2023 W-2 versus 2024 W-2. And do you mind just sharing a little bit about prior year and what that means for our families? And at one point, do they submit updated W-2s?
Absolutely. So there's a bunch of questions in there. So let me start with yes. So when you filled out the FAFSA or the International Financial Aid application or the CSS profile, you provided to our office your 2023 base year income. That's the year you provided of income that you provided on any of those financial aid applications. Great. That's the base year for the 2025-2026 academic year. For the student's sophomore year, in this case, 2026-2027 academic year, we'll be looking at your 2024 income. For the student's junior year, 2025 income. For their senior year, 2026 income. So there is a lag so that families can have completed tax returns when they're filling out these financial aid applications. That's why there's a year lag. So we looked at all of your 2023 income information when putting together the financial aid awards. Great. We put the financial aid award together based on the data you put on the CSS profile in most cases. So on the CSS profile, there's a question about how much you contributed, if anything, pre-tax to your retirement plan if you're a parent. And so how do we verify that figure? It's listed on your W-2. That's why we're asking for students, once they've enrolled at Skidmore, to upload to us a copy of the parent 2023 W-2. So we can check that the amount that you set on the profile matches what's on the W-2. That's one thing. The way we check the rest of the income that you've put on the profile is by you submitting the FAFSA. Everything else can be verified by what you submitted on the FAFSA, except for that pre-tax contribution to retirement, if there was any. That's why we need the FAFSA plus the parent W-2. So each year, I mentioned earlier, for students who are Skidmore grant recipients, you need to reapply and have us re-examine your financial aid application. We will do it in the same way we did it right now for your first year. So there'll be no surprises there. The only reason anything would change is if the information you're telling us changes. When you reapply for financial aid, you'll be doing a new CSS profile for the 26-27 academic year. You'll be doing a new FAFSA if you're a U.S. citizen or permanent resident for the 26-27 academic year, and then you'll upload a copy of your parent W-2 for 2024. Those are the three pieces of the financial aid application for U.S. citizens and permanent residents. And so each year we'll receive that information, do the same thing. Right now, most of you on the call, or many of you on the call, have been admitted, but haven't yet enrolled at Skidmore. So we don't need the FAFSA. If we have it, that's great. We've reviewed it. If we had it at the time, we reviewed your financial aid application. But we don't need it or require it until after you commit to Skidmore. That's the time at which we'll say, okay, you've committed. Now we're going to make sure that the data you put on the profile is the accurate data. And we're going to do that through reviewing your FAFSA and the parent W-2. So that's our verification process. Every college has a verification process. That's how we do it at Skidmore. Did I answer all those questions with that explanation? Okay.
You did. Fabulous, Beth. Yes, you did. And it spawned another question that is also here in the Q&A, particularly regarding the role of there are different circumstances. We have students, U.S. citizens, who may be living abroad, who may not have a W-2, or permanent resident who may not have a W-2, for example, to upload. What happens in those circumstances?
Yes, if you don't have a W-2 for any number of reasons, because you live abroad, because you own a business and so you don't receive a W-2. Any of those reasons, all you need to do is email the financial aid office once you've enrolled and just email FinAid, FINAID at skidmore.edu and just say, this is my name, this is my ID number or my date of birth. I just want to confirm that my parent didn't have a W-2 in 2023 because, and then we'll waive that requirement and there'll be no problem. It's easy. We do not, I just want to reassure everybody. Financial aid at Skidmore, we're trying to help you. We're not trying to put roadblocks up in front of you. We're not trying to find ways to, be sneaky. We are here to help you. We want to make sure that what you're putting on the profile is accurate, but we're going to work with you. We're going to help you manage the process. We're not a super formal office. We really care about our students and families, and we want to make this easier for you. So anytime you're worried or have a question, you just call us or email us and we'll get back to you and we'll help you through it. So just a simple email to the financial aid office saying, we don't have W-2s because of this. No problem, we waive it.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Beth. And this is just a plug for our fabulous financial aid team, who really is incredible and personal in their touch. And my ability to witness their work is inspiring in a lot of different ways. But as admitted students and families, you have the opportunity, if you have not already, to schedule a time to meet one-on-one with one of our financial aid officers, which includes the fabulous Beth Post here, who is a really great bowl of knowledge in this space. But you have that opportunity. So students, I encourage you to check your emails. You are welcome to connect with our financial aid office during this time. We want to hear from you and to answer some of your nuanced questions during this time. Now, with that plug in play, I'm going to continue to progress because there are some really great questions that relate to the role of loans. There are questions that talk about, and I know you've mentioned this, Beth, the difference between an subsidized loan and a subsidized loan, but who makes that distinction, and could that differ between different institutions, so institutions other than Skidmore?
Absolutely. That's such a great question because it's not clear when you're a parent or a student going through this process, why did Skidmore give me an unsubsidized loan and this other college give me a subsidized loan? The subsidized loan is based on the demonstration of financial need based on your FAFSA and a formula associated with the FAFSA. So let's say Skidmore offered you only an unsubsidized student loan of $5,500. That might be because we've offered you significant Skidmore grant. So let's just say your demonstrated financial need is $10,000 and Skidmore's given you $10,000 in Skidmore grant. That means you don't have any need left for the subsidized loan at Skidmore. Let's say at another institution, your need is $10,000 and that college is giving you $8,000 in their grant. You'd have $2,000 left in need, and you could get a $2,000 subsidized loan. So it varies from institution to institution, depending upon the amount of funds that college has also made available to you and your need at that college. Need also varies from college to college based on the cost of attendance. So let's say based on Skidmore's cost of attendance, your need is $25,000. And you also have applied to and been admitted to a college that costs $25,000 less than Skidmore. The same student's going to have zero need at that lower cost institution, but $25,000 of need at Skidmore. And so you might have a subsidized loan because of that at Skidmore, but not at the lower cost institution. So there's multiple variables at play, which is why it's really hard for you to understand sometimes why you have an award at one college that's different at another college. But hopefully that clears it up a little bit. Differences in cost of attendance, differences in the level of funding a college makes available to you are two of the main reasons why you would have different outcomes for that subsidized type of student loan.
That is excellent advice, Beth. Even for me, it's great to be able to learn those differences from my lens. And I know that for our students and families who are going through those different offers, I
Yeah.
know that's helpful as well.
Great.
And connected to loans in this space, there are some great questions as it relates to repayment. Do families have the option of whoever's servicing that particular loan or who in that space? Um, do they have the option of just paying on interest? Do they have the option of paying on the principal? What could that look like for families?
Absolutely. So if the student accepts, so there are three steps really for a student who's been offered a student loan once they enroll at the college to actually receive the funding. And the first at Skidmore anyway would be to log into the Skidmore student system and accept your loan. And the next two steps have to do with the federal government. So the student would use their FAFSA user ID and password to log in, and we will usher you through this process if you enroll at Skidmore, but to log into the federal government system and complete a master promissory note where you promise to repay whatever you borrow to the federal government. And there's some explanations in there when you do that. And also, before you can actually borrow the funds as a first-time borrower, you have to go through what's called entrance counseling. And it's counseling about your rights and responsibility as a student loan borrower. It also is where you can get more information about what are the three kinds of repayment options while you're in school. The first is the most common. Make no payment while you're in school on either the subsidized loan, the unsubsidized loan, or the plus. The second, in the case of an unsubsidized loan or plus, is to make interest-only payments. You absolutely have that option for the unsubsidized student loan or the parent loan while you're enrolled to make interest payments so that interest does not accumulate over time. If you can do that, that's ideal in the case of borrowing those funds. And the third option is you could, although I've seen that very rarely in my 38 years of my financial aid career, but you could start making payments on both interest and principal while you're enrolled at college. So those are the options. You'll be answering some questions about those options when you go through the actual application process for those student loans if you accept them once you're enrolled. There's a lot of caveats in there, but hopefully you understand how that plays out. We first tell you what you're eligible for, whatever college you enroll at, then you commit, you say, I do want to borrow those funds or a portion of them. And then you complete the next steps of actually going through the process of borrowing the funds and committing to repaying those funds.
Thank you for that. That is incredibly helpful. And I know several of our families are thinking about that long-term perspective as well. So there are some different questions about increases over time and thinking through, particularly as it relates to should I expect a financial aid award that's about the same if my student is pursuing a gap year? And I know you gave us a little bit of that breakdown, but can you share a little bit about the variance that families should expect?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such an important question for families to ask when they receive a need-based award. So our answer is always, we'll figure out your eligibility the same way we did it the first year. Your responsibility is to reapply by our deadline. Our deadline for returning students is in January. So if they enroll as a first-year student, when they come back from break and begin their spring semester, their financial aid application materials should all be in by that time. So the only reason that you would see a decrease in your financial aid eligibility is if the family situation has improved. So if the income is increased, the assets are increased. Sometimes families get inheritances, things, somebody who hasn't been working, a parent who hasn't been working goes back to work. And the other reason is if you have a sibling who's attending college at the same time as you, an older sibling, but then they graduate, that's significant change in the family. So in the future, If there's only one in college, when there was earlier in the student's career two in college at the same time, you're going to see a change in what we expect the parents are able to contribute, because we know that that family doesn't have the payments for college for that other student. So there's more resources available for the student who's attending Skidmore when that situation changes from two in college to one in college. So higher income, higher assets, reductions in the household number in college, those are the reasons that you would see the financial aid award decrease. There are an equal number of reasons that you would see a financial aid award increase, because we promise to meet the student's need each year. So if somebody loses a job, we're seeing a lot of that now with a lot of the layoffs in the Washington, D.C. area. We're hearing from a lot of families that are going through that, and we're responding to those families. So if someone loses a job, someone retires, you have a younger sibling now in your sophomore, junior, senior year who's also attending when it was one in college in the earlier years. Those are the reasons that you would see, the primary reasons you would see an increase in need and therefore an increase in grant over time. So it can go up, it can go down, but it's all based on the family, a change in the family situation. It's not arbitrary, it's not formulaic in terms of we reduce financial aid because of these. Even if this is how flexible we are, even if you are late, and hopefully none of you will be late in reapplying for financial aid, we don't reduce eligibility. We might not increase eligibility to the same degree if you're 3 or 4 months, not days, late in your financial aid application. But we're not going to, find a way to, pull that rug out from underneath the family. Our students are able to persist because of financial aid. In other words, they aren't leaving. They aren't having to leave because something has changed and now they can't afford it. So we're really proud of that, and we're pretty committed to that. So is it guaranteed? No, because it's based on your financial circumstances, which could change. Is it responsive to your family's financial circumstances? Absolutely.
Thank you for that update. And honestly, really thinking through the kind of holistic approach
Yeah.
to this process, and understanding that circumstances do change over time in this space. And as we continue to think through special circumstances as it relates to the student's experience, there are some really great questions coming from parents and guardians. If there are updates regarding financial aid or student accounts, are there opportunities for parents to be looped into that process? And what does
Yeah.
that look like?
Yeah, that's a common tension, I think, between students and parents, and sometimes the college. The college is communicating with the student about their financial aid. But a couple of options for you all too, because students are teenagers and they're sometimes easily distracted and have a lot going on and all that. So what we have recommendations. One, for financial aid specifically, we would recommend that the student set up a rule in their email that anything that comes from finaid@skidmore.edu, FINAID@skidmore.edu, automatically gets forwarded to a parent or family member email. Then they don't even have to think about it, and you receive that notification just about as soon as they do. The other thing is that Skidmore for enrolled students has proxy access. So the student and information and instructions about how to do that are on the registrar's website. The student can set you up to view the financial aid award pages and a few other pages. They get to decide what pages you see or not, and you can have direct access to the Skidmore student system to see that yourself. In terms of billing, the billing system is a separate system. And once we know all of our enrolled students in early May, the bursar's office will send out a mailing home, and it will inform students and families how to set up the billing system to authorize another person or more than one people. So a parent, another family member, an older sibling, whomever the student wants to also have access to the bill and to be able to pay the bill, the student can set that up and authorize that on their own, and they can do that pretty easily. So those are some tips about keeping communication flowing between financial aid, the student billing system or the bursar's office, the student and the family.
Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful. And connected in this space, are there opportunities for students to seek information to or seek additional aid? So thinking through um, circumstances where a parent may not qualify for the Parent Plus loan, are there other options that students can pursue?
Yes, there's such, as large a variety of special circumstances and concerns as there are students and families. And so for these kind of, you called it nuanced or personal or, you know, uh, very specific questions, absolutely contact us. As Janessa, you said a little bit ago, we are meeting with families during the yes days. We have 15-minute appointment slots that we can get a conversation started, take down your information, say hello, look over your situation and see if there's any additional information we need from you or you want to share with us. There's that. On our yes days, we have a Zoom appointment meetings scheduled available on Wednesday afternoons. You just need to email us, finaid@skidmore.edu, and we'll set you up with a Zoom meeting with one of us. One of us will be, we have 4 financial aid counselors, including myself, and we are with you through the student's whole 4 years of college. So we'll get to know each other, we'll support you through it, but you can meet with us via Zoom. You can just email anytime, finaid@skidmore.edu. If you have a concern, parent might not qualify for the parent loan, what are other options? You'll be put in touch with your financial aid counselor who will review your situation and give you an appropriate answer. But don't hesitate to contact us and reach out to us or other financial aid administrators at other colleges. We really are here to help you through it. If the admissions office has offered you admission, we want you to attend Skidmore. We want you to come and we want to help make that happen for you. So we have financial aid appeals committee. We meet twice a week. We review requests for reconsideration, and we're often able to help at least a little, not always, but often. So if you need more assistance, if you need more help in order to be able to attend, you can contact us. We'll let you know what we need from you. We'll bring it to the financial aid committee. We'll make a decision and we'll let you know pretty quickly.
Thank you for this update, Beth. Incredibly helpful. And I know that we're nearing the last few minutes of our webinar this evening, and there's so many excellent questions, some that are a little bit nuanced. And so I'm just going to reiterate, as Beth has mentioned, that we are very much supportive and highly encourage you all to connect with our financial aid office to talk about specific circumstances and questions that you may have regarding your financial aid award. But I would love to end us on a couple of overarching questions, and one that I know that your team has received quite often during this time, and one that has definitely come up here in the Q&A as well. Can you share a little bit about how the Skidmore Financial Aid Office is supporting students during this time, particularly as it relates to the potential impact of federal aid for our Skidmore grant recipients?
Right. So if you're talking about the potential for change to federal programs based on, I'll say the disruption, that's what it is right now happening in the government. We're definitely very aware. We're in tune. We're paying attention. We're working with other colleges like us. We're keeping in touch with our professional organizations. So there's not much more we can do at this point, other than keep our eye on it. As far as we know, processing might be a little different, but we haven't heard right now of any changes or reductions in the student financial aid awards. So We feel good about that. That doesn't mean it's going to stay that way forever, but we feel good about that in the near future anyway. If something does change, it's going to affect all colleges. There's no, Skidmore has no reason to be singled out for anything. So we're all in this boat together. We are all going to find our way through it together, and we're going to continue to support students the best we can. And I wish I could, give a better answer than that, but that's the true answer. And I suspect everybody who's asking or worried about that is pretty aware that we don't know. We're all in it together. All the colleges in the United States are in it together, and we're going to have some faith that we'll get there and we'll do it together, and you'll be all graduating in about 4 years.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that. As I know that has been on the minds of our students, parents, and guardians, and even high school counselors who may be on our webinar this evening. So the last question that I would love to ask you at this point in time is, what advice would you give to this wonderful group? As we know, some are high school seniors who are in the midst of their spring semester. Some are pursuing a gap year. We have some parents, guardians. This is their first child going to college. Some this is their last child going to college or only child. And so, what advice would you give to this group at this time regarding financial aid?
This group probably doesn't need this advice, because here they are spending an hour on a weeknight trying to learn and understand as much as they can. But my general advice is that communication piece. Make sure you're talking to your son or daughter about what they're hearing. Make sure, son or daughter, you're talking to your parent or your family about what you're hoping, having that open line of communication in the family, but then also bringing in the college when it's appropriate. When you're not sure, like even after I've described some things today, maybe I've confused you, or maybe, it's prompted another question or two. Reach out to us, talk to us. That's what we're here for. That's what we like to do. We like to help you. So don't just sort of, throw in the towel and say, I don't understand. Just keep working at it, keep learning, keep in touch. Think about that auto email rule that goes from the college right to the parent, so that there's no missed opportunities there. And try to enjoy this time a little bit. If you're on this webinar, you've been admitted to Skidmore. You've applied for financial aid. Hopefully you've got financial aid that can help you make it work. And if not, it's just people like me in the financial aid office and amazing people like Janessa in admissions that want to help you get to, the class of 2029 at Skidmore.
Ah, that's great advice, Beth. That's really great advice. And thank you. And I think the bigger piece here for all of you as newly admitted students, or students who have been admitted for a little bit of time, and know that Skidmore is your home. We thank you, just as Beth mentioned, for taking this time to engage with us, to ask your questions, and know that it does not stop here in this way. And we most certainly are here for you. This is the Skidmore community in that way, and you'll find that through our interactions. I also want to thank Sarah and Tiffany here in the background, who have been answering questions, live Q&A here, as well as those who have asked questions through Q&A and having some written responses as well. But at this point in time, we will let you all go. We would love to see you on campus soon. If you are making your way, come say hello to us. We would love to hear from you. I hope you all take really great care. Bye-bye.